Yo, 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 welcome back to another episode of Island Spot Sports. And before we get to our guest today, we have a big shout out for Living Sisu. Living Sisu is a platform and app that wants to give you all the tools to have success in your sport. Their main objective is to activate your lifestyle. So it's for active people. Enjoy discounts at companies like BioSteel, 30% off, Body Logics, the Goalie Guild, all his books are discounted. Roan, Lululemon for men, 20% off, online stretching programs with Eccentrics, 1 full month free. They got super silent massage guns, 20% off those. And it's a great quality. It's way less expensive than a Theragun, and it's great quality. So there's so many more discounts that you guys will need to just become a member to see. So they want to provide you with anything you need for success. So come join the community. I'm a part of it. A bunch of other athletes are a part of it. So it's free to join. It takes 20 seconds to get exclusive offers to your sport, and it's definitely worth it. So do us a huge favor and go sign up for Living Sisu's membership. It's free, takes 20 seconds. So go do it, and we'll see you there. Living Sisu is a great company. We know one of the co-founders, Zach Fricali. He's a great guy. He's the co-founder. He does a lot of live streams on Instagram at Living Sisu, with a bunch of elite athletes, and you learn a lot from like the athletes' determination, their resiliency, everything to what made them become successful. So it's been a great experience so far. So go on. I'm gonna leave the link in the description. So go sign up.
Yo, welcome back to another episode of On the Spot Sports. I'm Jack, and in today's episode, we are joined by a very special guest, current professional goaltender Tomas Sholl. Thomas is a 4-year professional goaltender, currently playing overseas in Slovakia for HC Detva. He also played 2 years of junior hockey in the NAL for the Fresno Monsters, and then committed to and played 4 years of NCAA Division I hockey for Bowling Green State University. Welcome to the show, Tomas Sholl.
Thanks for having me on, Jack.
Yeah, no problem. So, how have you been? Like, we're in these weird times right now. So, like, how's COVID over in Slovakia, and how's your season going overall? Because you guys just started like a month ago. So, how's that going?
The season's been going well. We got off to a pretty good start. We've been winning more than we've been losing. I couldn't tell you what the exact record is, but yeah, we're doing pretty well. Personally, the season's going not so bad. I've played most of the games. I've gotten the start for most of the games, and they've mostly been pretty good, so no complaints on that front. COVID's about the same over here as it is everywhere. Seems to be picking back up a little bit, so restrictions are kind of tightening, but yeah, we're getting through it.
Yeah, so is it weird playing with no fans, or during this whole pandemic, or is it just normal by now?
Yeah, it was definitely weird at first, and we had fans during our preseason games, and then when the regular season started, we had no fans, so that was a bit weird for the first few games, but now that we're like 10, 11 games in, it's just kind of the norm.
Yeah, at least you guys have gotten used to it, and it's not distracting or anything. You're just you're playing the game that you love, and you're playing professionally, so that's at least good. So can you give our viewers like a little background information on yourself, like when you started playing hockey, what was hockey like for you growing up, and what made you become a goaltender?
Yeah, for sure. I actually grew up in Southern California, so not the traditional hockey hotbed, but my dad was managing ice rinks like around the area from the time I can remember, basically. So he played hockey. He was a goalie. My grandpa played goalie. So this kind of like joining the family business, I guess, when you strap on the pads. So that's kind of how I got into it. I started probably my first time like playing. I was like 6 or 7, but when I started playing goalie like with teams, it was probably around the age of 8. So had the pads on ever since, and junior kings all the way up in LA. And from there, like you mentioned in your intro, I played junior hockey in the NA for Fresno Monsters. Was lucky enough to get a deal to Bowling Green out of that, and spent 4 years there, and been kind of kicking it around the minor leagues and pro ever since.
Yeah, so like you said, you grew up in Southern California. So what was hockey like in Southern California? Because it's like you said, it's generally not a traditional hockey state. So like, what was it like growing up around there?
I think people are surprised when you hear hockey from California, but it's been getting bigger every single year. Like when when I was young, it was still kind of on the rise, like trying to get into I don't even know if it's still a thing, but like the tier 1 elite leagues that like the AAA teams play in. And like, so we were like kids my age and a few ages above me. We were kind of like that Gretzky wave of like our parents got into hockey. Not my dad, because he's been playing hockey his whole life, but my teammates, their parents got into hockey because Gretzky came to LA. So we were kind of the first big wave of hockey coming through. When I was playing AAA midget, we only had 3 teams in the whole state that were playing AAA. And my brother just got like this season is 3rd year of juniors, but when I was watching him play juniors, I think they have like 10 or 11 teams of AAA teams now. So it gets bigger every single year, and it's cool to see it. It's cool to see the sport grow.
Yeah, exactly. So like, what was it like playing those 3 teams and having to go out of state, I'm guessing, for those other games during your time in AAA?
That was the toughest thing, was having to go out of state. I think we traveled almost every other weekend to go to a showcase or a tournament, just because there wasn't enough competition around to play. So that was definitely tough, financially, as well as just like keeping up with school at the time. But ended up being worth it. I'm glad that the kids now don't have to deal with that quite as much, and they have good competition right at home. But yeah, it's something that was kind of like a rite of passage in California at the time. You had to kind of get on your grind and travel a little bit, and if you wanted to move on.
Yeah, that's awesome. So like, it seemed like you play in a very good AAA organization. So like, did that organization really help grow your love for the game and become serious about playing juniors, college, and then maybe go pro before you knew that you're going to go pro?
Yeah, absolutely. I had some really, really great coaches. Like, I think when I was a squirter peewee, I had Nelson Emerson. I think it was my squirter. It's Nelson Emerson, who played in the NHL forever. He was my coach, and he's actually a Bowling Green alumni. So like down the road, that was like a cool experience to share with him. And I had other great coaches along the way too. Jamie Storr, who's a former Kings goalie, was my goalie coach, and for the Junior Kings, and Jack Bokus, who unfortunately recently passed away, but he was a great influence on me growing up, and had a lot of good coaches that definitely pushed me in the right direction for my hockey career.
Yeah. So when was like the time you realized that you were a very good goaltender and had a shot to make goaltending a job?
I don't know if there was ever like a moment where I was like, oh, I think I'm good enough to do this. It was always like in the back of my head of like, this is something that I want to do. And I was going to give myself every opportunity to try to do it. And as long as I kept succeeding at the level I was at, I always wanted to test myself at the next level. So it was more of a progressional thing than it was like, I'm good enough to do this. It was always like, I'm good enough at this level. Let's see what I can do at the next level. And then kind of just continuing to climb from there.
Yeah, just facing that better, harder competition definitely forced you to be successful and just take the reins from it. So did that really help you going up to the next level each year, and overall just helping yourself succeed?
No, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, anytime you put yourself into a new situation where it's higher competition, it's a sink or swim moment, right? So you have to either match the level or else you're going to drop out really quickly. And like I mentioned, Jack Bokus earlier, he was the coach of the 18 AAA team when I was growing up, and I was always on the younger teams. So I would always skate with his older guys for that same reason. I was trying to elevate my game to the higher level. Like I think it's key. Like if you're able to step up your play when you're playing against higher competition, that's what it's all about.
Yeah, it was for sure. So like, what was the hardest part of facing that higher competition, especially when you would practice with like the older guys? Like, what was the hardest thing that you had to realize that you had to get down to be a good goaltender?
I mean, when I was really young, when I was probably like 14 or 15, still in bands playing with the midget teams, I just remember getting a lot of bruises and stuff because I was probably wearing gear that wasn't meant for men to be shooting on you. But aside from that, it's just reading and reacting to plays. It's not so much that you can't make the saves that anyone else can make. It's just that as you get older, you learn the game a little bit better, and you can see the plays developing before the shot actually comes, which just allows you to be in better position. So the better you can read the shot, the more likely you are to stop it, even if it's a harder shot.
Yeah, especially when you move up, like you can definitely tell, like read plays a lot better. Like I've noticed that in my game, and it's just like become like I wouldn't say a lot easier, but like you expect what's coming and you can react to that save and make a save there and make a save here. So it's definitely cool to see that.
Yeah, absolutely. It's all about getting some muscle memory, just
Oh yeah,
running through situations, and the more you do it, the more familiar it is when you get it into a game.
yeah, exactly. So like you going into like junior hockey, like what was the process of playing junior hockey like for you and finding a team? Did you have to like attend some camps, open tryouts, or did you get drafted?
So when I went to juniors my first year, I was undrafted USHL, undrafted NHL. I went to a USHL camp and did well, but they had kind of already had their team picked, and I think they ended up having John Gillies on their team that year, who's obviously a really good goalie, so can't really blame him for that one. But then I went to Fresno Monsters camp, just same deal, just as like a walk-on invite kind of, and I did really well in camp and managed to stick around. So it's just kind of had to fight tooth and nail to get on a roster, and then fight tooth and nail to get some games in. But that was the process for me, just kind of getting into a camp and showing what I could do.
Yeah, exactly. So then going into your first year in the NOL for the Fresno Monsters, do you have any expectations going into the season, or did you just think that just to compete and play and see how you do from there?
I was just really excited for the opportunity to like play juniors, and it was exciting and kind of scary just being away from home the first time. But yeah, I was kind of honestly expecting at best to be splitting time, and more realistically to be backing up that first year. And I had some good games early on, which kind of kept me from back up to like the split role. And when we were splitting, I kind of ended up running away with the starting job. So that was a surprising year, because but in a good way for sure. Like it was better than I could have expected it to have gone, and that's where I got committed out of Bowling Green after that season. So it was a pretty essential year in my hockey career, and definitely didn't expect it to go that well as it did. But looking back, it's very very lucky that it did go that well.
Yeah, exactly. So like what were some of the things that you learned that really helped you be successful, especially during that first year, and get the commitment of BGSU and help further develop your career?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing that I learned from juniors, like coming from like playing AAA, is that like it's a little bit more like hockey's your job at that point. Like when you're playing AAA club hockey, like you're still going to school, you're still I don't know. I had a part-time. I was working at the rink a little bit too. Like, you're not just completely focused on hockey, but when you're playing juniors, like your whole schedule, your whole life revolves around your practices, your games, your traveling. So it became much more focused and like commitment, like just really dialing into hockey. This is giving my full attention, full energy into it, and uh, hoping that it's enough to go on to the next level. So that's kind of what I took from it.
Yeah, exactly. And that's what you can take out of it. It's just you got the opportunity and you're rolling with it. And you played a ton of games your first year. Like you said, you were expecting like split the games, but you went 20 and 14 playing 40 games with that year with a 2.38 goals against average. So like, what do you think contributed to your success in your first year of juniors there, and just getting overall that starting role?
I had a really good relationship with our coach, which helped a lot, because when I played well early, he grew some confidence in me in net. And after that, we had like just a very good trusting relationship. Like he knew that if I did my job, like he wouldn't have to worry about me. So he kind of gave me a longer leash and allowed me just to do my thing, and gave me the support when I needed it, and didn't really have to discipline me a whole lot, which was nice. So, and then I had a really great billet family, which made the transition really easy, because I was just very comfortable away from the rink and well fed, well rested. And yeah, it was all in all a really good situation when I was in Fresno. Just a great first step coming from home and away from home for the first time.
Yeah, that's a great thing to have, is a good relationship with your coaches. And then when you went to your billet family, like at first, were you like nervous? Were you scared? Like, or like, did you just take and just go with it? Like, how's your billet experience and like the first like thing you notice about it?
Yeah, it was definitely different. Like I had a billet experiences before, and I did the Pee Wee Quebec tournament. We stayed with the billet family for like 2 weeks, so it wasn't completely foreign for me to be living in somebody else's house and their rules. But the same time, that was a much shorter time than a full season. But they were great. They were super open, super welcoming people. So it was a really easy transition. I've kept in touch with them to this day. They've actually made it out to some of my games when I've played college and pro. So it's been a really great relationship that I've had ever since then.
Yeah, that's awesome. So then going into your second year in Fresno, you went 10-14. So like, what did you do to help keep yourself mentally focused and mentally sharp even when things weren't always going your way?
Yeah, that was an interesting year because I actually started the year. I was drafted by Fargo in the USHL, and I went there for preseason and ended up getting released after preseason. Came back to Fresno, and it was a pretty up and down season emotionally wise. And like, my biggest focus was just trying to take another step and find consistency in my game instead of like big highs and lows. Because I knew that I was going to college the next year. It was going to be playing against another higher level. So it was more about refining my game and finding a consistent level throughout the whole season.
Yeah, for sure. So then, like, what are some tactics you would use to stay calm in games and outside of games when things wouldn't be going your way and your mind would just wander?
Yeah, I mean, that stuff I wasn't super great at when I was in juniors or college. I was kind of just going off like gut feeling. So in juniors, I was very like strict routine guy. Like I knew if I did everything a certain way, then I'd be feeling good. And the danger of that is that if things don't go that way, maybe you're not feeling good for the game. So that's things that I've learned later in my career, which I think's helped like in more recent years. But at the time, that's kind of what I relied on was just, okay, I got to eat this. I got to do this before the game. I got to do this, whatever, the whole checklist. So probably ended up being more stress in my game than it helped. But at the time, I thought that was the way to do it.
Yeah, I used to have a similar situation. I'd get like routine oriented and just everything I'd do. Like if the game wouldn't go bad, it'd screw with you and just be like, oh, why I did everything I usually do. Why isn't it working? But it's part of the game, and it's definitely a learning experience, a learning curve for sure.
Oh, no doubt. Yeah. So I've taken a much more relaxed approach in more recent years and just kind of go with the flow, make sure my body's feeling good by stretching, whatever, doing my whole warm up. But aside from like the superstitious stuff, I've kind of cut that stuff out.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, that's always good because it does cause stress, especially when you have to do
Yeah,
literally every single thing the right way
for sure. And
unless
sometimes
something
there's things
goes
that are out
wrong.
of your control.
Exactly. So then going after your second year in Fresno, you committed to Bowling Green State University, where you played games in 3 seasons. Like, what was the decision to go to BGSU like, and your overall college hockey experience?
Yeah, so I committed to go to Bowling Green after going on an official visit there. So I went out with my mom and met the coaching staff, met a lot of players, checked out the campus, and really liked it. And I mentioned Nelson Emerson earlier. I have a family relationship with him and Rob Blake, who's another former BG alum who lives in the LA area. And yeah, it was just the right fit for me. I loved it there. It was a really, really great time in my life for the 4 years I was there. Hockey wise, it didn't necessarily go great for me. I ended up kind of falling into a backup role in my second year, and then my third year didn't even get a game in, which was a bummer. But aside from that, like I had a really great relationship with pretty much everyone I met there, coaches, players. Despite not playing, I still have a great relationship with the coaches, and some of my best friends are there. And like I had a really terrific experience in college hockey.
Yeah, that's good that you at least got the experience out of it, even though you didn't play as many games as you would probably hope. But your first year, you played 12 games with a 2.68 goals against average. So, what was like the adjustment like going from the junior game to the college game, and some of the challenges you faced during that first season?
It's kind of the same as anytime you make a step up into a level. It's guys are a little bit bigger, they're a little bit faster, the plays come at you a little bit quicker. So it's just again finding a way to elevate your game. I had a pretty solid freshman year. I think I struggled a little bit with consistency or maybe letting in like a bad goal a game, which could kind of break the momentum of a team. So that was a big learning experience, and didn't really work out for me so well because I think I ended up putting a little bit too much pressure on myself, like I talked about earlier. Like if I let in that bad goal, then I would kind of shut down as opposed to being able to forget it, and that kind of carried through my college career and held me back a little bit. But yeah, it was college hockey it's fun. It's very different than pro hockey in terms of the way it's played, but yeah, it's really exciting and fun playing.
Yeah, for sure. And then the next 3 years, you played 5 games your sophomore year. You said you didn't play any in your junior, and then 2 your senior year. So how hard was it not playing as much? And like, what would you? I know you touched on it a little bit, and for junior, but like, what would you do to stay positive and help keep yourself in game shape in case
Yeah,
you were ever called on unexpectedly?
for sure. So I probably played my best hockey in my college career in my sophomore year when I only played the 5 games. But unfortunately, we did like a win you're in system early on with all 3 goalies, and I took a loss early on, and then our other 2 goalies went on like a big hot streak. And after that, they kind of had their 2 guys, and that's kind of what painted me as that backup for the rest of my career there. But when I wasn't playing, I just really wanted. I always believed myself that I was a good goalie, and I knew that I was going to want to try to play pro. So whenever I was in practice, I was my mentality to try to be the best goalie in practice, but also be the best teammate I could be, supporting the other 2 goalies so like they could do their best if they were in the net over me, play and win. So just always trying to have a positive attitude, not let my disappointment over not playing affect my teammates around me, but at the same time show that I was hungry and wanted more by competing and working as hard as I could and practicing in the weight room.
Yeah, for sure. And I think like being the best goalie you can be at practice and showing everyone that you want to be there, it definitely goes far. And like what the coaches see, what your teammates see, and it makes everyone better, and especially makes you better as well because you're competing out there and just giving 100% each practice. So it's always a good thing to try your best at practice, no matter what time it is. You like practice game, like you got to go 100% each time.
Yeah, for sure. And I think that's I touched on that. I still have a good relationship with my coaches despite not playing. I think that the fact that they saw that I wasn't a guy who's just going to roll over and quit, like even without playing, was a part of that. And in my pro career, they've always been super supportive, and they've given me recommendations to teams when I've needed it, despite like me not having played for them a whole lot. So it's like you never know like what your practice ever can do in the long term. Like it's it shows a lot about your character if you can do it when it's not necessarily when the spotlight's on.
Yeah, exactly. So going into your junior year, you didn't play any games. Like, how hard was that year for you as a player, and just not being able to get any game action on, and where you were able to get action in all your other years?
It was really frustrating because again, I was playing great in practice and whatever, like, but like I mentioned, they kind of just had found the trust in the 2 other guys since they went on that big win streak the year before, and they had just outperformed me. So I couldn't blame them for the decision, but at the same time, it's frustrating because it's kind of like you're stuck in quicksand because you don't even have an opportunity to get into a game to show that you can do it. Because like sometimes that's all you need is just a chance to get in there and show it. And when you don't play a single game, obviously you can't do that. So it was a tough year mentally, and yeah, I was definitely glad to put that one behind me. And luckily, haven't had anything since like that since then.
Yeah. So like, what was your mindset like during that time? Like, how were you able to like stay positive? Like you said, you're at practices every day you could be, and just working at practice. Like, did that help your mindset a little bit, even though you didn't play any
Oh, for sure.
games?
Yeah, definitely did. Like, yeah, like I said, just always being ready and always keeping in the back of my mind that hockey's a fickle sport. Not that I ever wish an injury upon anybody, but should one happen to one of my teammates, I would have been ready for it. And that's kind of the mindset I took, is just that you never know when it could happen. So just make sure you're ready for if it does.
Yeah, exactly. And that's all you got to do at that point is just stay ready and be mentally sharp whenever you do get that call.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then after your senior year of college, you're able to sign a pro deal the following hockey season, the SPHL, for the Macon Mayhem, where you played 2 games before going to the Evansville Thunderbirds, and you put up really good numbers in Evansville, which led to you being loaned to Adirondack Thunder and then the Idaho Steelheads. So like, this is your first year of pro hockey, so like take us through your journey and your experience throughout your first year.
Yeah. So after not really playing in college, I kind of did a little bit of self-contemplation if playing pro was something that I actually wanted to do or not. And my head coach in BG, I had a meeting with him, and he was actually all for me trying to play because he realized that I still had a fire in me for the sport and thought I would regret it if I didn't try. So I was able to get it was actually just like a pro tryout contract with Macon. because I hadn't really played enough games to even just get a contract in the SPHL, which isn't the highest level league in North America. So yeah, I had a buddy who was on the team that year. He always knew I was a good goalie, and he talked to the coach for me and got me a tryout there. Did really well at camp. Played a couple games, didn't do my best, and they traded me to Evansville. So that was a shock to the system early on, not the start you wanted. And I kind of fell into a good rhythm in Evansville, was able to play well. And in the back of my mind was always the motivation to get the call up and try to play at a higher level. So that was the motivating factor, because I knew I was good enough to do it and just needed the time to show it. And luckily in Evansville, I got the ice time where I was able to show it. And getting into Adirondack was great. The coach there, I played one game and played well. And after that, he had a lot of faith in me and gave me a lot of opportunities, and ended up trading me to Idaho because their American League affiliate signed a goalie, and the whole pro hockey shuffle. He ended up coming down. I got traded. And then Idaho, kind of like I was talking about earlier, I think Ben Bishop got injured. So then somebody else got called up, all got called up, and all of a sudden I was the only goalie in Idaho. So I played almost every game the rest of the season and was lucky to do well. So it was certainly a roller coaster of emotions, from barely getting onto a roster to getting traded 2 games into the season to I think I got goalie of the month the last month of the season in the ECHL. So it was a pretty big low all the way to probably the highest in my hockey career. So it was a kind of wild ride.
Yeah, so what would you do during your time at the SB to make sure that you elevate your game to try to get to that coast level? And just because obviously, like, it's a lower level league, so you want to get as high as you can in the system. So, like, what would you do besides, like, practice to help yourself elevate that game and learn from the pro game?
So the biggest thing that I changed, I kind of touched on it earlier, from going from college to pro, was my mental approach to the game. Instead of being so like superstitious, strict that everything needs to happen like this, I can't let a bad goal in, to having a lot more positive of a mindset, where I go into games feeling like excited and just like happy for an opportunity, as opposed to nervous about doing poorly. And I think that really benefited my play. And I wasn't worried about making bad plays, so I made less bad plays. Basically, I was just having fun and playing hockey again, and kind of for the love of the game, as cheesy as that sounds. And I think it showed in the way I played. So it was, yeah, that was the biggest thing, was just changing my mindset. I didn't change anything that I did in practice, didn't really change how I worked out, and was doing the same things I did in college, but I changed the way I thought about the game. And I think that was a huge difference.
Yeah, so let's dive into that really quick. Like, what did you change about your mindset that really helped elevate that game? And, like, how would you stay positive, and even when things weren't going so well? Because I know you said that you weren't as good with that juniors or college. Like, how did that change over the course of your pro career so far, and just able to stay, like, on track and stay focused no matter what the score of the game is?
Yeah, for sure. So it was like basically like a standard thing for me in college was, I wasn't consciously thinking about, oh, don't let a bad goal in, but like it was always in the back of my mind. Like if a guy was coming down the wing, I'd be tensing up on like the short side just in case he was going to shoot there and get a bad goal in, but then he'd end up scoring on the far side, you know? So it's just, I was kind of mentally putting myself into a pretzel where like, you don't want things to happen. So that's all you're thinking about, is those things happening. So of course they're going to happen. Right. So like when I got to pro, it was more positive. Like, tonight I'm just gonna have fun. I'm gonna enjoy the opportunity to get to play hockey, since I didn't get to play hockey so much in college. So like now I'm in games, I'm having fun. Like just enjoy it. Like be in the moment, take it one shot at a time. Like if you let in a goal, it doesn't matter. It's a hockey game. Like, but at the same time, I was still very focused and wanted to do well, but it wasn't the end of the world if it didn't happen. The same. So I was trying to take that, like more of that approach, and paid a lot of dividends. And just just focusing on being like in the moment in the game, not worrying about what's going to happen 2 minutes from now, not worrying about what happened 2 minutes before. Just where's the next shot coming from? Next shot, kind of, you know?
Yeah, exactly. And that's kind of the mindset I've been going into this past season. It's just staying focused in the present, and not thinking about anything. Just if I do give up a goal, like saying like I just stop the next shot. And it really does help you with like your mindset. And like, even if you do give a bad goal, just say like, you got the next one. And then like,
Yeah.
it really does help. And like, I never realized that part of the game until this season, but like, it definitely does help you as a goaltender and help you stay successful. And you just see your numbers drop from there, and it's a really good feeling.
No, for sure. I think it's as important as your physical part. I mean, that's like you're out there alone for yourself for 60 minutes, right? So it's a lot of self-talk, and if you're talking negatively to yourself, it's not gonna help you out by any means. So you gotta have your own back a little bit when you're on the ice.
Yeah, for sure. Do you have like any trigger words that like help you remain focused, or does it just
Yeah,
come
I do.
naturally?
So I do a lot of like kind of breath work, like mindful breathing, like just trying to follow my breath before games, after games, like pretty much whenever. But during the game, I kind of have like a little mantra I'll say to myself, like I'll say like breathe in energy, breathe out negativity, breathe in positivity, breathe out doubts. And I kind of just repeat that through my head the whole time. And like obviously you get lost in the moment, which is when you're like playing, but when I find my mind wandering, I try to get back to that 4 phrases, back to my breath, back to positive thoughts. And then before you know it, those negative thoughts are out of your head.
Yeah, it's amazing how the negative thoughts really do escape your mind after you do stuff like that, and bring your focus back to being present. It's definitely cool to see how everything just goes away, and then you can just
Yeah,
focus on the game.
for sure. And then when the puck comes into the zone, I'm pretty much just thinking puck, 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 where's the puck, where's the puck? But then when it goes to the far side, that's when your brain gets a little wandery.
Yeah, exactly. And it's a lot more calm when the puck's on the other side of the zone instead of
Yeah,
like right next to you.
for sure.
Yeah, so and then you started out on the coast with a 14-0-3 record after your first year pro. So what made you so successful and find success in the ECHL rather than what you did in the SPHL?
Well, for one, I was thinking that I didn't want to go back to the SPHL. I wanted to stick around, so kind of just like sparked a fire under me a little bit, just to do my best to prove that I belonged. But at the same time, I actually talked to my goalie coach in Bowling Green about this. It was kind of like playing with house money, where everything at that point was extra, so there was really no stress, right? Like I got an opportunity that, looking at my junior year in college, I probably never would have even expected to be a possibility. So it really was like playing with house money. There was nothing to lose and everything to gain. So just went out there and kind of played with like freedom and joy that I didn't have in a while. So it was easy to do well when you're playing with that mindset.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
of course, our team was playing great in front of me as well. I don't want to take any credit from them. We had a really great team that year, which put me in a position to have success.
Yeah, that's always a good sign. Always a great feeling as a goaltender when your team out in front of you is playing well and helping you get the wins. So
Yeah,
then,
absolutely.
yeah, and then going into still in your first year, you were named ECHL Goaltender of the Month, Goaltender of the Week twice, SPHL All Rookie Team, SPHL Best Goals Against Average, and SPHL Second All Star Team. So what a way to end your first year! Like, how great was it to be recognized for all these awards in your chaotic, lot of moving around first year?
It was great. I mean, I was in a place before the year where I wasn't even sure I wanted to play, and being able to like play games and find success, it kind of re-sparked the joy that I had with hockey and remotivated me to continue just pushing myself even further to see if I could do more.
Yeah, exactly. And then going in the next season, you found your way onto the Idaho Steelheads, and you played in 39 games, going 26, 12, and 1. And you also played in 11 games in the Kelly Cup playoffs. So take us through that year in Idaho and that playoff run.
Yeah, so that was actually a really interesting start of that year as well. We started the year with myself, Ryan Farragher, who has played a lot of American Hockey League games, and Phil DeRosier, who's on an NHL deal with Dallas. He's a second rounder. And I actually didn't play a game for, I think it was like the first 10 games of the season. So it was kind of that same mentality. I was right back in college again. I was scratched. I was watching from the stands. I was just trying to do my best in college, like practice, which was a little bit of a shock after having a good year like the year before. So I was kind of really had to test the mental side again. So just again, stayed really positive, waited for my opportunity. And of course, pro hockey, things change really quickly. All of a sudden, I was the only goalie in Idaho again when both of them got called up. And I think I played almost every game the rest of the season after that, because I kind of just continued where I left off and kept doing well. And my coaches they talked to me at the end of the year. They said they were very surprised, but in a good way, that I was able to repeat what I did the year before. And so it was it was a tough start. just not playing again. But I had experience with that, didn't let it break me, and waited for my time, and was able to take the most of the opportunities that I had.
Yeah, and it's a good thing that you were a mainstay in Idaho and you didn't have to really worry about getting traded or anything. So like that, I bet that was a good feeling to just stay on one team throughout the entire season, not get moved around constantly.
Yeah, it was a great feeling, but like I said at the start of the year when I was the third guy looking in, it didn't seem like that was going to be the case. Like I kind of foresaw down the road that maybe like I'd be the guy that got traded at the deadline or something. So I was glad that I was able to kind of show my stuff and stick around because I loved it in Idaho. It's a really awesome place.
Yeah, exactly. And then this past season, you also played for Idaho again, and you played 41 games. So goaltending takes a big toll on your body. So, like, what do you do to stay recovered, especially playing day in and day out and playing 41 games throughout the entire season? And it was
Yeah,
a shortened
so
season too.
yeah, I think I ended up finishing with the most minutes in the league last year. So I think I think I would have got a few more games if the season did get shortened too. So yeah, I was definitely playing a lot of hockey last year, and it was a lot of fun. We were a good team. We were winning games, which was a lot of fun. And yeah, it's just important. Pro hockey, it's very different than college in that you play a lot of games and you maybe have less practices. So it's just being really smart about your rest and like uh, it's kind of like in college you're working really hard in practice every day, but in pro like you have to take smart days off. Like sometimes you feel like you want to go on the ice, but you have to listen to your body. And like if you feel like you need a little bit of time off, like talk to the coaches. I had a great relationship with my coaches after being there for like the year and a half before that, and they managed me really well, work management wise, like gave me days off when I needed them, and just make sure your diet's right, do a lot of active recovery, like stretching, a little bit of weightlifting after practice, whatever you need to do to just be in touch with your body, make sure you give it what it needs.
Yeah, for sure. And nutrition is a big part of being having good performances as well. Like I never realized that until like this past year again, but it really does help your performance and help your game, especially for like what you put in your body. And what you put in your body definitely does like help you elevate your game. Like you don't want garbage, junk food, all that in your system. You want healthy food, just good nutritional stuff.
Absolutely.
And it definitely does help. Like that was one thing I took away from this past year is just nutrition's huge.
Oh yeah, it's absolutely huge. That's actually one of the biggest things that after my first year pro, each year I kind of look at what I did the year before and think about what can I improve at to get to a little better. Nutrition is what I did going into my second year pro. And I changed my diet pretty drastically. I went for a mostly plant-based diet going into that year. So I've been meat-free since then, actually. So that's I don't know if not eating meat is what the direct cause of my performance boost is, but I think it's just thinking more consciously about what's on my plate and just putting together, thinking about what I'm eating and making sure that you're getting the nutrients you need is absolutely key no matter what diet you're using.
Yeah, for sure. So this prior season as well, like you got called up to the Texas Stars in the AHL. So what was that experience like, and just getting that call up to being one step away from the NHL?
Yeah, so I was actually on a AHL deal with Texas last year, and I was technically loaned to Idaho for most of the year. So I started last year going to Dallas Stars training camp and Texas training camp. I played a preseason game in Texas and before coming down to Idaho. So the training camps are so awesome, just being around like Jamie Benn, Tyler Seguin, Ben Bishop, like all these guys. Like you see what they're doing every day that makes them so great, and you try to absorb it, and you're around that level of professionalism just in their rink every day. So it really sets your season off to a high standard, right? So it's a really exciting thing that you can start out that way. And it was great to get the call up to Texas during the season, but didn't get a game in, which was disappointing. I would have loved to see what I could do in game action aside from preseason at that level. But yeah, it was really exciting when I got the call. Just would have loved it if I would have got a chance to get in the net when I was up there.
Yeah, for sure. So what was it like being at the Dallas Stars training camp, like, and like getting shot on by these guys like Jamie Benn, Tyler Seguin, all these guys, and having having a great goaltender in Ben Bishop to be by your side the entire training camp.
Yeah, so I wish I was with Bishop the whole time. We were in different groups, but I did get on the ice with him a couple times in like goalie sessions and stuff. And he was a super nice guy, like super willing to like share his knowledge of the game and like talk to the young just invite to the camp who's not even on a deal with Dallas, you know. So that was pretty cool just to like just see the work ethic he puts in and then to see the run they went on during the season and make it all the way to the Stanley Cup Finals. It kind of was cool to feel in some small way that you were a part of it, that I was there for the training camp in the year they made it that far. And it was it was cool to be part of that experience and just get to know like what they're doing every day that makes them so great, and try to take what small things that they like that you can take with you.
Yeah, that's awesome. So like, what led to the events leading up to COVID-19 this past season, and like like where were you guys in the standings, and like did you guys have to go like no fans at all, or did the league just cancel right then and there?
I mean, it was honestly like didn't even think about COVID until until we shut down more or less. So we were doing great. We were surging. We were second place in our division, chasing first. We had just beat the first place team in the league, like 2 out of 3 the week before. Those were our last games we played. And like, I think we were playing our best hockey at that time. I want to say we won like 10 of 11 going into that. And yeah, we were clicking, firing all cylinders. So it was kind of crushing when the announcement came, because we were feeling really confident in what we could do as a team. And it just seemed so sudden, because like I said, it wasn't on anybody's mind. And all of a sudden, like, it was so drastically affecting all of our lives. And yeah, it was more or less like our season got canceled. Then 2 days later, we had a team meeting, and about a week later, like everyone on the team was back home. So it happened really quickly.
Yeah, that time was crazy in March when everything got shut down, everything got canceled, like all the leagues, like that was a time to live in. It was crazy. Like you will never, I don't think you'll ever experience something like that again, knock on wood.
Yeah, honestly, the craziest thing that happened to us was that so our league announced that they were going to have an announcement in the next few days, but they didn't say what it was going to be. And we were supposed to be on the road in Rapid City. So we flew all the way to Rapid City, South Dakota, and we're like sitting in our room, and like 4 or 5 hours after our plane landed, then the ECHL announced that the season was canceled. And so we got back on a plane the next day and flew home.
Dang.
So took an unnecessary flight right in the peak of the COVID-19 pandemic, just because we didn't know if we were playing or not. So that was the most it was like add insult to injury kind of. We had to take a flight to Rapid City, South Dakota for no reason.
Yeah. And there's nothing really to see down there. So
yeah, you got Mount Rushmore, but when you played in the league for 3 years, you've done the trip a few times. You've kind of seen all there is to see in Rapid City.
Yeah, exactly. And then so with the shortened season, even though it was shorter because of COVID-19 happening, you were named the ECHL Goaltender of the Year. So like, how special was that honor to you, and how hard was that and like explain like how hard you and your team worked?
Yeah, I mean, it was super special. I mean, there's some really great goalies that play in the ECHL. I think almost every team has a guy who's on an NHL contract. There's guys that's every year who make their debut in the NHL who played in the ECHL. So it was, a huge honor to be named the best for that season. And I think that's a partial reflection of how I played, but also a partial reflection of how our team played. We had a great defensive core. We worked super hard. And when you have a team that you feel really connected to, like I did in Idaho, and they're playing great and you're playing as good as you can, like it kind of fuels your energy to play better. You know, like you want to do well, not just for yourself, but for your team. And I think that kind of is what propels somebody to the next level. I don't think you can win a award without having a good team in front of you that you want to do well for and who's doing well for you.
Yeah, exactly. And so congrats to winning ECHL Goaltender of the Year last year. And
appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. So then this year you decided to go overseas. Like, what was the process to like deciding if you wanted to play overseas or stay in North America, even with this uncertainty of a season?
So I probably waited a little longer than I should have to make my decision, because I was really hoping that things were going to turn around in terms of COVID, and that the AHL, ECHL were going to start on time. After a good year, I was hoping that I was going to get an opportunity in the AHL. And just as things kept getting pushed back here, I just realized that I had to had to start playing hockey and get back on the horse a little bit. So I started looking overseas. At the time, it was, like I said, a little bit too late, maybe, because there was a lot of guys realized what I did much faster than I did, that like things were going to get pushed back here, and started heading over a lot sooner. But I was lucky to find a good spot in a good league here, and I've been just lucky to be playing hockey when a lot of the hockey world is not. So it's been pretty lucky that I've been able to get back out there.
Yeah, at least you're playing games right now, and because the AHL's postponed until February 5th, and then ECHL starts December 18th, I believe. So still
Yeah,
got
and
some
I think that the whole North Division of the ECHL just announced that they might not be playing next year. So like every day it's new information. So I'm hoping that Idaho and the rest of the teams are able to figure out a way to play, but it was a little bit too much uncertain for me to sit around and wait,
Yeah, for sure. But hey, you're getting games now and you're playing, so that's all that really matters at this point.
Yeah, for sure. Absolutely.
Yeah, so Thomas, I got a few more questions for you before we get this thing done with. So, what are some of the biggest tips that you'd give for helping goalies get to the next level?
I think it's kind of say what we've been echoing throughout the whole conversation. That's just make sure that your mind's right before you step into the net. Don't let yourself be negative, and just kind of have your own back when you're in the net. Be in the moment and make sure that you're thinking positive thoughts that are going to help you play, as opposed to negative thoughts that are going to hold you back.
Yeah, exactly. That's a great tip, and just as long as your mindset's there, and like you could find a way to be successful no matter what, and just take your game to the next level for sure.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, and then going into my last question, how important is being a student of the game for you, and like is that what you use to help make yourself so successful throughout your years of pro hockey so far, and like what you've learned as a goaltender throughout your entire life?
Yeah, definitely. I think if you ever think that you know everything, that means that you're not going to get any higher than where you are right now, right? So I think I mentioned it earlier, at the end of each year, like no matter how successful that year was, I try to find one thing in my game that I can improve, whether that's your mindset, whether it's your diet, whatever it is. There's always something that you can change that might be able to help you just a little bit. So it's always self-evaluating, always learning, always looking to other people who might have information, and just always looking for better, because if you think that you know it all, that means you're not going to learn anything new.
Yeah, for sure. So do you evaluate yourself after every game? And like, if so, like, how do you do that? And like, what do you focus on when you are evaluating yourself after like every game, or like every week, or whatever you evaluate yourself on?
Yeah, I was doing it a lot more last year because I had a lot more access to video. We had a good system where I got all my clips for like every save I made, every goal I got in. And it hasn't been as consistent getting the video here. But what I like to do is I usually take a few days off from the game, just to like give my mind a fresh slate when I watch it again. Because I think after a game, if you have a great game, you're probably going to think a little too highly of the way you played. If you had a bad game, you're probably going to be a little bit too negative of the way you played. So take a few days, so that way you look at it with clean eyes and you can actually be objective when you watch it. And I'll watch the saves, watch the goals, think about the time the goals went in, just kind of everything. And I'll give myself a grade, more or less, like A, B, C, whatever. And I'll write what I did well, what could I improve, and like the reasons why I think I can improve those things. Like I'll write a little paragraph. Like I have a spreadsheet where I'll do it for most of my games. And like I said, I haven't done as much this year just because I haven't had the video to do it with, but that's what I was doing last year. I would watch all my clips, think about what I did well, what I didn't do that well, and what I can do to improve.
Yeah, for sure. And just self-evaluating yourself overall is like a really good like key to help you be successful, because you then know what you're doing right, what you're doing wrong at times. So it's definitely does help a lot. And
Yeah.
I've noticed that because I have a notebook that I write in just what I did good, like 3 things that I could work on and stuff like that to improve. And it definitely does help, and helps you make clear what your weaknesses are, what your strengths
For
are,
sure.
and how to help yourself elevate your game to the highest level
Yeah.
you can.
Super important. But like I said, it's like you got to be careful you're not being too hard
Yeah.
or too soft on yourself. You got to kind of almost pretend like you're watching somebody else when you're watching it. But yeah, it's super important if you can do it, if you can self-evaluate well.
Yeah, exactly. That's all that. It's all that matters, as long as you're not like going too hard, too easy on yourself. But find that medium and just go with that.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. So Thomas, thank you so much for coming on the show. I really appreciate your time and look forward to seeing how your career goes, and good luck the rest of the way.
All right, Jack. Appreciate you having me on, man.
Yeah, no problem.